Well, good day, everyone. Good day. This is your man, Jason Miles, and I am here to introduce you to the one and only Steve Conley of It's About Belief. Now, Steve and I do real estate together. We do a lot of business together in the real estate world and have, for a good number of years. But I personally have been learning from Steve a little bit of a little bit about a lot of things over the years. And over those years, Steve has written a couple books, and he's going to tell you a little bit more about that. But this is the first episode in his first season of the It's About Belief podcast, and we want to make sure that you're going to get the kind of personal development that you need in the world that we're living in today. He wants to make sure that you at least know that these things exist. It's up to you, of course, whether you put them to use or not. But I can tell you firsthand that I find them extremely helpful and beneficial. And I think that everyone in business and just in life in general needs to have some of these tools in place that they can exercise to help them through their days, through their weeks, through their months, through the trying times, and believe me when I tell you, even through the good times. So without further ado, Mr. Steve Conley, how are you today, kind sir?
I am doing fantastic, and I just heard a beep, so I'm just going to put my phone on airplane mode.
No
There we
problem, no
go.
problem, no problem. So, Steve, tell us a little bit about yourself. Just about you and your journey up to this point in your personal development.
Okay, I'll make this fairly brief. I'm just been running around the planet like everybody else, just trying to figure things out, right? Trying to have more fun and take some of the stress away. And I've had some challenging times, and those challenging times are really, really good for people, and they were good for me. I look back and say, wow, I don't want to do that again. But the amount of information that I got from those challenging times made it, oh my gosh, so much, so well, so well worth it that it was just unbelievable. The spiritual aspect of those challenging times and the introspection and the questioning that comes with those, like, what the heck is going on here? And then also, that kind of frees up the mind and the brain to be aware of things that are happening. So, you start to see things that your rational mind says, wait a minute, that's not supposed to happen like that. But it does. And so, really, what I'm here to talk about is bringing magic to your life.
And so, so from my experience, that magic really has a lot to do with self realization or realizing what's really going on around you. Not in an actual mystical sense, but magic in the sense that you're changing the way you think, which ultimately changes the way you see
Yeah.
things and address things. I mean, that's the way I've experienced it.
It might come under the category of mystical, if you will.
Mm.
I have no problem with that, as long as, people don't label it as something that is negative, because there's two sides to every, label. There's really good and there's really bad, and there's and two sides to every vibration, and two sides to every story, and two sides, or actually, I'd like to correct myself, infinite number of versions and stories and permutations to everything. And so, part of what I talk about, I'm not going to get too windy here because Miles won't let me, which is good. Um, is there's no such thing as time, so everything exists now. So we have complete and total freedom to choose what we want. And I've heard a great example online that, hey, if you go to an all-you-can-eat buffet, you're probably going to pick the things you like to eat and, put those on your plate. You're not likely to say, "Oh, look, there's Brussels sprouts there. I don't like Brussels sprouts, but I'm going to eat them anyway because I think I'm." That's kind of what life's about, you know.
Absolutely. I think that as we move through this existence that we're in, we wind up with a false sense of reality. I think, and it can come from a lot of different places. Come from society, our culture, or just whatever existence we're brought up in. We fall into this belief that that's just what it is, when the reality of it is that's just a station, and it's a station that you get to choose to stay in or choose to change,
Yeah,
right?
it's a
State,
state of being.
a state of being.
Um, Neville Goddard talks about states of being. I like the idea that they're just frequencies that we reside in for a certain amount of time because we're not these physical bodies.
Mm-hmm.
We are vibration and energy and consciousness, and that's pretty much it, you know. So you then with our minds and our brains, we can choose the vibrational frequency that we like. If we want to say, "Oh man, my day sucks," then guess what? Your day's going to suck.
Right.
Or if you feel that way, then that's the way things are going to be reflected. Now, I don't really go down the path. I'm kind of the squeaky voice out in the wilderness saying that, maybe things aren't the way you think they are. And maybe the processes that everybody teaches are not really necessary. Maybe it's just the way we think that creates. So let's focus all of our energy and attention on not doing things, out here so much, but let's do things in here so much. And that when you do that, watch carefully the reflection out there because most everybody's looking out there and saying, okay, this is bad, this is good. And then they go, work on it. But, if your hair's all messed up, you get up in the morning, you got bad head, your hair's sticking up like mine was this morning. And I'm not going to reach out to the mirror and try to fix my hair because that's ridiculous. You can't fix your hair in the mirror, right? You reach over here and you comb your hair. Same thing with reality. You don't reach out into reality with your physical actions and try to fix things because that's just exactly like trying to fix your hair in the mirror. It's
Mm.
not going to work. You have to turn all your attention inward and find the belief that you grew up with or the belief that you're holding on to, the thing that you keep thinking over and over and over and over again, and fix that. And then your reality will change in front of your eyes. And believe me, it works exactly like that. I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen radically. Most people haven't paid that much attention. That's one of the things I got from going through the dark days of the soul. Is one of the guys I've hired to help me through this, as a coach and mentor. He said, "Hey, you just came out of the dark days of the soul. You might still be in them." That was a number of years ago, a number of decades ago when I hired him. And so he woke me up to that idea. And of course, I saw it happen in front of my very eyes.
So what is when I think of that, and then of course I'm leaning into my experiences, with this, and still being in the early stages of learning how to do it and how to think differently and really live, an abundant life through manifestation, through creating the world mentally, right? And
Yeah.
one of the biggest things that I've gotten out of it is, even though your expectation, I mean, kind of getting out of expectation and kind of getting out of that, how things should be, how people can fall into this thing, and my life should be this way right now, and it should be that way. It is what it is because of the way we've been thinking thus far. So when we think differently, it'll make it different, but it might not be the different thing that you want, but it's you're happy. Does that make sense?
Makes complete. You're just right on it, man. You just nailed it. And so we do get caught up in the way things we think they should be, but that's that's not something you want to dwell on, because if you look at that, then you're just going to perpetuate that idea into the next event, the next thing that shows up in front of you, and it's going to look the same. It's kind of like what we need to do to here on this planet, if you will, is observe things. So imagine that what's happening is that energy is coming in through your mind and it's being projected out through your brain and into the screen of your reality. So this screen is your movie. Okay. It is filtered by your beliefs and your ideas and your experiences. But basically, it's just a belief. And thus, it's about belief.com, or it is about belief.com. That's where that came from. So you've got a movie going on here. It's just a movie. That's it. And so you can choose to be sitting back here in the director chair and directing the movie, and all the characters, including yourself. You're out there on the stage. Yes, you're sitting here as a director, but you're also out there on the stage. So you've got multiple, roles in your movie. Now, if you're on the stage and you believe you're on the stage as the actor in your movie, and you're caught up in the drama of that movie, then you're kind of stuck. You're just going to react to what's happening within the play, your movie that's going on there, and you're powerless. So if you can separate yourself and sit back and you're back in the director chair, now you can say, okay, look, I'm not an actor. I'm not involved in the drama of all this stuff. I'm not getting emotionally involved in it. I don't really care. I'm the director. I get to choose what the next scene is. And so now as a director, you can say, okay, stop. Everybody stop. Just like they do on Whose Line Is It Anyway? Stop now. Instead of doing it this way, do it that way. Now it's a comedy. Now you're just, you're laughing at everything, and you're not doing it negatively. And so as a director, you have control. So be the director. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes total sense. And we have the opportunity to do that every day.
Every day.
Every moment. Yeah. And I see it in my, education. And I hate to really call it an education. It's more of a coming of age kind of thing. It's an experience. It's not like you can actually read up on it. You can obviously be directed into it, right?
Yes.
But it's in having that director. It's in having that guide that can say, hey, listen, I'm not pouring into you what I want you to do. I'm just showing you the way. I'm just showing you how to get there, but you're the one that has to take that journey. And I don't know if you're going to go left or right or backwards or forwards or up or down. I don't know. All I know is you're going where you're supposed to go, and I'll help guide you there.
You're certainly right on it again, Mr. Jason O. Miles.
That's what I'm getting from just kind of, listening to you differently, right? Having different conversations with you, and then implementing those things, ever so slowly, but implementing those things in my life. And that's how I feel. That's how that's how I interpret it. That's how it feels to me as I listen to you. On the business side of things, you hear me tell the story to people all the time. Steve has taught me so much about this business, and you're like, when?
Right.
How did I teach you anything? But the reality of it is, by listening and watching and working through deals and watching you, especially in the early years, work through deals and have all these. I remember one deal that you did that we ultimately bought from you, it was an owner financing deal. And at that time, I hadn't done one of those. So it looked like magic to me, you know?
Right.
And trying to explain that to other people was kind of, at the time, was very difficult because I was still learning from you myself and saying, "Oh, how did you do that?" And you even showed the paperwork. Well, you have to have this, and at the time, I think you had like an 8-page contract. You know,
Yeah. Now I'm down to a page and a quarter.
right? Exactly, and that's with the add-ons, right?
Yeah.
But I liken it to a situation like that. You just having the opportunity to be in your circumference and the willingness to listen, shut up and listen, and then implement is what gave me the education and still the education that I'm still getting from you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's value in that across the board, right? But just from a self-realization standpoint and understanding the power that each individual has within themselves, because it's different, right?
Yeah.
But nobody, well, I won't say nobody, very few people actually seem to know that. And even if people come to power per se, not necessarily come to power, but achieve a certain level of success, that doesn't mean that they got what they were looking for. It just means something else. Sometimes the thing you want manifests, but turns into the thing that you want the least.
Could be, but
Right.
the thing that you want the least could be the best thing ever.
Mm.
There's so many things that are popping into my mind just listening to what you're talking about. But the one thing that I kind of want to mention now is that most people believe this is really a collective experience, and that you know we are looking out there and there's a whole group of people going through this experience here. Well, that's not really what's happening. Actually a very specific individual experience. Now, the fathers that created our nation, wrote the Constitution, they said a couple things in there. They said it's about the individual, it's not about the collective. And they also said pursuit of happiness because, no matter what we do, we're still going to be in pursuit of happiness, not achievement of happiness, not living happily ever after, but living constantly in pursuit of something. So, what is that something? So, I'm going to leave that for every individual to decide.
But that's the big question, though, right? What is that something? And it is an individual journey. It is that,
Yeah.
And we've all been in those situations, the person that's in touch with themselves as well as the person that isn't, where we can look at someone else and say they could be so good at this if they just did this, or if they didn't do that.
No.
Right? They would be great if this would change in them. But the greatness you see in them might not be the greatness they see for themselves. And the change that you need, maybe that you're seeing, is maybe an internal change that needs to occur.
Thank you for saying that, because I was going to say exactly that. Because remember, all that we see in front of us is that movie that's coming through our head and being projected out on the screen of space. That is our feedback. That's feedback to who we are. Period. Because listen, that person that you're talking about there that could be doing this or that and the other, well, there's an infinite number of those people, vibrationally speaking, of course. We see one, period. We just see one because that's who we're vibrationally lined up with. That's feedback for us. Has nothing to do with them.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing. They're going to change when we change in here. So as soon as we change, boom, they change. Now, the thing that when you were talking earlier, I had in my mind was We can be a hearer of the word or a doer of the word. So the word is, whatever information you're getting. So the hearer hears it and says, "Oh, that's ridiculous. The world is what it is, and nothing's going to change." And they're absolutely right because they're not going to do anything to change it. But a doer of the word is somebody that says, "Wow, what is this about? Let's test this thing. Let's see what's going on here. Let's do something." And I don't mean reaching out here to try to fix your hair. I'm not talking about that.
Right.
I'm talking about here again, right back here. So the doer of the word is the one that says, "Okay, what is it that I believe that is causing these things to show up in front of me?" And you start really digging deep. You start digging into your psyche, and you're finding some things that don't line up with what it is you actually want. So that means you're picking the Brussels sprouts off of the buffet. You don't want those, right? So, but your beliefs in here are telling you that you need them for some reason.
Right.
But the only reason that you think you need them is because you have a belief that you need them. Period. In the story, belief. That's it. So stop it.
And see, and that's exactly why I think people should tune into this podcast, these teachings, these trainings, whatever you want to call them, these realizations on a regular basis. I mean, again, this is the first episode, and these are the things that we're talking about now. But what are some of the other things, topics? I hate to say it that way, but what
No,
are
that's
some of the other things that you're going to discuss and walk people through or help people through in their journey throughout this podcast that we're putting together?
Well, processes are not necessary. I mean, I have a 20-second manifestation, if you will, process. Well, I mean, that's almost not really a process, it's 20 seconds. But the things that we're going to talk about are processes because they're necessary to help build your belief bridges into your next understanding of what those beliefs are. So while processes aren't necessary, I think we should keep that in mind. They might be necessary to help us get to the next level. So within that category of processes, I talk about a lot of different things, like how to manifest some material things, like how to manifest a car or a house or a soulmate or a lover or a business partner or better health. So those are all processes that we'll talk about, and then we can talk about other things like quantum jumping and um, uh, the understanding of no time, because there's no such thing as time. Einstein said time was created so that it wouldn't look like everything was happening all at once. The fact is, everything is happening right now, this moment, right this moment. But we're just quantum jumping from one thing to the next. So what? What difference does that make, right? Well, it's kind of important to know so that you know that anything and everything is possible immediately. Now, we may not get there because of our beliefs, but if we have a process that takes us through that, then it's helpful.
Right, right. And that's what we're going to be talking about, or you are going to be talking and laying out for us what some of those processes are and how we can at least begin to implement those processes into our life. Understanding that change isn't always easy, but it's absolutely necessary.
I watched, this Monk TV show. It's, Monk.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
a
yeah.
private detective that's very dyslexic, and he says, "Listen, I'm okay with change. I'm fine with it as long as I'm not there
Right.
when it happens." But there's 4 laws of the universe, and the fourth law is there's always going to be change.
Right.
That's a law. but except for the first three laws of the universe. You'll just have to stay tuned to find out what the other three are.
That's right.
So,
I love it. So,
yeah.
Steve, where can people catch this podcast if they're, listening to this for the first time right now or watching it on YouTube? Where will they be able to listen to this if they're driving in their car or working out or at work, wherever they are?
You know what? That's a great question, and you might have to answer that. But I think YouTube, it's about belief. I have a channel on YouTube called It's About Belief, ITS About Belief. I have a website, it's aboutbelief.com. And then we also have another website called itisaboutbelief.com. By the way, those URLs are pretty cool, I think.
Yeah,
And I spent
absolutely.
like an hour or 2 hours trying to find a great URL, and I gave up because it was like, I give up. I looked up and I said, okay, I surrender. And the next morning I was meditating, and this infinite intelligence voice in my head, clear as day, said, get up and go get it'saboutbelief.com. And I said, yeah, but I did that. I was working on that yesterday for like 2 hours and I gave up. And then the voice said, are you arguing with infinite intelligence? And I said, yes, no. I mean, no, I'm not. So I got up and it said, now get the It's About Belief too while you're at it. And I said, okay. I got it. And then bam, and like the time it took me to log on and type it in,
Yeah.
I had both of those.
And so
So
that's what it'll be. I mean, it's going to be, it's about belief on whatever um, podcast broadcasting, Apple, Google, Spotify. It'll be in all of those. Tune in. So Google Play, if I didn't say that already, it's going to be wherever you like to listen to your podcast. It's going to be there. And I would suggest that you guys not only tune in, but engage with Steve. Like he said, go to the website. It's About Belief. It's About Belief, ITS. And then there's It Is About Belief, which is where you can catch up with Steve if you want to talk about some guidance, some training that he offers. And believe me when I tell you, I'm a part of him creating this stuff, so I get a first-hand seat in watching it and implementing it in what I do. It's something that, I mean, even if you believe it's hocus pocus, okay, it, the way you think is what you manifest in your life. And I don't care where you are, what stage in life you are, you can look back at your life if you're being honest with yourself. And I have to believe that we can lie to everyone else, but we can't lie to ourselves. We know what we do and what we don't do.
we can lie to ourselves.
We can try. We can try. But the reality
Yeah.
is, the decisions that you made. You know that. And if you find yourself blaming, well, I'm not where I want to be because of this person or because of that situation. Listen, it's all about the decisions that you make. It's all about it. And I'm not saying that what Steve teaches and shows us means that we're going to make all of the right decisions in our lives. Sometimes the right decision is the wrong decision because we need to learn. All I'm saying is you really should give this a shot in your life. And from my perspective, Steve is one of the greatest people to put you through it because he's lived it. He's had the experiences, the ups and the downs, the ebbs and flows of life. I mean, everybody has. But someone that's willing to share it with you is different. Someone that's willing to say, hey, this is not how you should think, but what are you thinking? See, there's a
You
difference
know,
there, and it's so subtle.
at the it'saboutbelief.com site, if you scroll down, you can sign up for a free subscription to Daily Belief Ideas. So those go out every day, Monday through Friday. I give everybody a weekend, to think about those. I make them as short and sweet as I possibly can. I try not to get too long with them because, hey, we all have our days, right? And and then we have some other things too that you can do. As a matter of fact, I've got a free 1/2 hour consultation if you'd like to take advantage of that. It's free, you know, and you can talk about anything you want, and the challenges. So that
Yeah,
is, I don't know if that is actually there, but we'll make sure it's there.
absolutely. And we'll put links to everything that we're discussing underneath this in the description. So just go to the description, hit a couple links, and engage with Steve. I'm telling you, it's worth your time. It's worth your energy. It's worth where it's going to take you. So link with Steve. Steve, you have anything to say in closing?
Yes, I try to get this in almost all my videos, and it's usually just a really short thing that's at the very end that says, "Oh, by the way, live fearlessly." And the reason I say that is because if you live fearlessly, then fear is not a factor in your life. If there's always fear there, then that's going to be reflected back in some, let's call it negative situation. So if you just approach things fearlessly, things, your whole life will be much simpler and easier. So let's do that. Isn't that what we want?
That's exactly what we want. And on
Yeah.
that note, everyone, thank you for listening. Make sure you listen to some of the other episodes that we've got. This is the first one. Go to the next and the next and the next. You're going to get a lot out of it, and engage. Please engage with Steve. Let him know how much you appreciate what he's sharing with you, because it does matter. So thanks, you guys. My name is Miles. I'm with Steve. Steve, It's About Belief. Thank you so very much, man. I look forward to this journey with you.
Thanks for putting this together, Mr. Jason O. Miles.
My man.